Okay, how are we doing? Okay, looks like a very small schedule. I'll pull down the usual. Record this meeting, release manager nominations. Kevin, you here?
He's out on vacation today.
Okay.
I have one. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Lazan. Who are you proposing?
So I commented there, like Zhihan from he is working in our company, working in China time zone, but he's interested.
That's fine. Okay, who is it?
Zhihan.
Zion. Sorry. All right. Okay. Sounds great. So I think we need a third.
I think Kevin was still going to chase that down. I don't know, Brian, if you talked to Kevin about that.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Let's just leave it TBD then.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Naresh.
All right, can you guys hear me?
I cannot hear that you just said, can we hear you? Okay. Okay, so why don't we confirm Sam and Zihan right now, and then we can add a third later. Don't let the great be the enemy of the good. What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any objection? I mean, we can imagine why.
No objection. Just is he a Istio contributor or I just don't know if he has worked with the community a lot, Lizan.
He has been working on there. Yeah, he's in the active in the developer list already.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right. Future reminders. So we have the environment yearly roadmap. I think I'm going to make sure that's in the schedule for today. And then, all right. Wow, that didn't work well. I'm going to type it in by hand. And then, Brian, what do you want to do about this? You want approval for this? Or did we already, did you get approval on the PR already?
So, yeah, the release manager expectations, I added a comment in here. I don't know what to do with it when it's done, but I posted it on the wiki since that's where the rest of the content is.
Okay, any other action you want here?
Nope.
Do you want more people on the PR to give you feedback?
So that's already posted on the wiki.
Okay, already merged. Great. Then I'm going to remove it from the list.
Yep.
Whoop. Okay. Brian, yeah, this is an interesting one. Shall we switch to Zoom meetings to allow recording by non-Googlers?
What's Zoom?
We would have more choices for backgrounds, I think. That might be nice.
So I think we talked a little bit about this in steering. We are fixing the Google Drive ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And that, in theory, could also be used to fix the calendar, which would allow to fix the recording. I can bring that up with Craig. Craig was the one who was following up on that and has finally figured it out. So all of the design docs and everything will be public. You won't have to request access or join that Drive access group now to be able to read the docs. But we didn't specifically talk about calendar or recording, but they are all related. So hopefully that lines up.
Yeah, and I guess, Brian, I mean, and everyone else in this call, does that satisfy the concern, or would you still like to propose a switch to Zoom for other readings?
No, that sounds great to me.
Would anybody else like to propose Zoom for other meetings? Like custom backgrounds that are more interesting. It's high priority.
I was going to say, I think user experience uses WebEx for their meetings, but
That's right.
that's a one-off right now.
This is okay.
I think user experience uses WebEx for their meetings.
Because WebEx has a better user experience?
I think because the workgroup lead was not a Googler and couldn't start the meetings and record them. Ed, answer that.
It's certainly motivational, though, to try to use WebEx and then get started on trying to make other things easier.
I love this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we mandate that people use Hangouts in any meeting, but it's kind of like whatever the leads can make work for their working group meetings is fine, and I guess this is what the TOC made work.
Okay, shall we do that? Let the working group decide.
I mean, I think they already do.
Okay.
So quick follow-up question, Louis, about the thing that you mentioned with Craig.
Mm-hmm.
There have been, like, we've had things on the agenda that says create a new Istio.io org, like a new dasher or a new org.
Yep.
Is that what is going to happen in the plan?
Yes.
or is it something? Okay.
That has actually been created, and Craig has been testing to see whether the doc transfer would work properly.
Okay, awesome, great.
Does anybody else want to add to this, or should we move on? Niraj, Lynn, Sven, do you care?
It's good.
Okay.
I think it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. Great. All right. Shweta. Shweta, are you here? If not, I was talking to Shweta about this yesterday. I can try to capture this.
Maybe
okay,
we want to just attribute the Eric's item, because I can see us spending basically the rest of the meeting on this one.
Good call. Good call, Louis. Very good call.
Louis knows we just did that in another meeting, right, Louis?
Yes.
All right. Eric, what do you think? You want to lead the discussion?
Well, I don't know if I want to lead the discussion. I'm just kind of curious what the answer is. I know there's a bunch of PRs out there in the Istio.io channel. And so if people want to look at what the new pages are going to look like, you can click on the deploy details and see that. But I'm just kind of curious what the plan is going forward. I know that I've been trying to give some feedback, and most of the feedback I get from the PR owners is, well, that's already been designed. We're going to ship it that way, and we'll get feedback from users after we go live.
What I don't understand, I guess, go ahead, Eric.
And so my guess is, my comment is, well, when are we going live, and when are we going to get feedback, and then who's going to fix things?
Okay, so what decision do we need to make? What are the choices?
So can I give an update from steering before we go to the decisions?
Okay.
That might help. As far as I know, and Louis, you can correct me if I'm saying something wrong here, the PR as it stands, I think mostly will get merged into master, like Eric is saying. The current code is already available to see in preview mode, and it will be available in preliminary after the code gets merged to master. And after that, whatever issues come up, the idea is to keep fixing it. I think there is kind of a resource constraint on getting this merged, as the work is being done by a vendor and Craig and a few other folks.
Okay, I see John raised a hand. John raised a hand.
Somebody raised their hand? Oh, John.
Yeah, I was wondering, I heard something about the vendor like not being under, I don't know what the term is, like they're not working on this soon. So who is going to fix issues that come up?
Right. So here's
I'm just kind of worried that like this is dropped and then there's a bunch of bugs with it and no one no one wants to or knows how to fix it.
It's good concern.
And my concern based on that is if we dump it into master, it will go live with 1.10 because of the way Istio.io works. Right.
So the status from Craig was, so yes, the vendor as of today is no longer on the project. The vendor got acquired by Snowflake. So they're no longer a vendor. So that was a hard wall. Craig's assertion was that there's a small number of content issues outstanding and a moderate number of format and layout issues outstanding, but that the site is good enough or close to good enough that we should commit to putting it on preliminary and that we should all take a look, go through and try and iron out any issues that we can, because the counter to that, right, is if we don't commit, it just won't happen.
But to John's point, who's going to fix the issues?
Well, so now it basically becomes an all hands on the pump thing, right? Here's where we are. This is what happens when your vendor won't work.
Okay, let's see. How many people could fix issues here? Who's available?
I can fix issues, I think. Like, don't ask me to pick a color, but I can probably write some text or fix some CSS if I had to.
Yeah, and I think Craig just joined in, so it might be good to include him.
Did someone summon me?
Magically.
We said your name 3 times. Yeah.
It's magic.
Sorry, so I think, Craig, we were just catching up on this vendor who was working on the site, winking out of existence, and the proposal that let's just merge what they've done as is, but we do anticipate there'll be a small number of issues, and we need to make sure that we have enough people to fix them. Are you one of those people? And I love the mic, by the way.
Thank you. I am one of the people for content, but I'm not one of the people for CSS and backend stuff. So that will be a lot of what we have. We could do with some design assets and so on. We may be able to get some people to help with that. But for example, we've resized things. Some of the table layouts are not the same as they used to be. Having some web dev people available to fix that kind of thing. Dark mode may or may not work. That's a thing that I actively think that will bother some people on this call enough that they'll probably feel like they want to fix it themselves.
Anybody else want to volunteer to help? And if not,
I mean, can we get another vendor to actually finish it? Because it seems like finishing it by the community, which is what we're asking for right now, is going to be challenging.
well, we got some people here already. How many issues?
I worry about only the people on this call being the people that are fixing this. Like, I would like to think that someone involved in Istio commercially has a web developer on staff or someone who might be able to spend 5 hours a week fixing this. And it's not just up until 110. It's like who will maintain and make changes to the site? Who is the new Martin going forward?
Yes, it's not like we didn't have a site maintenance problem before, right? That was still something we did as a community, right? We brought a vendor in to help accelerate an improvement, and yeah, that vendor problems.
Yeah, but the vendor was only ever, like, we might have had them for another couple of months, but that got accelerated. We would never have had them past 110.
What I think is, accelerating something versus giving a broken user experience from a functioning user experience is different, right? So I think the folks who are raising this issue are saying that we might be in a state where it is quite broken, it looks like.
I don't know. Is Eric on the call? Like, my opinion is it's not quite broken. Like, we've gone through and we've tested a bunch of stuff throughout. So I would say that there are probably two classes of issues. There are I don't like the colors, which we can go back and revise, and then there are we can't see something doesn't work from a CSS perspective, or the docs don't align the way they used to. So like I'm of the opinion that it wouldn't be embarrassing, content not written notwithstanding, it wouldn't be embarrassing if this thing went live today or soon, which is why I'm happy with it going to preliminary. And I figure that anything that needs to be done between now and 110, that's enough time for us to write the 2 or 3 extra pages and fill in the lorem ipsum that we haven't filled in. And it should really only be minor fixes between now and then.
Yeah, so I was the one who originally brought up the question, when are we going live? And it sounds like the answer is we plan on going live on preliminary soon, and then we'll go live on Istio.io with 1.10, because that's just the way things work, right? We move out to the 1.10 branch, which goes to Istio. And like my big concern is we've had a lot of a lack of manual testing in the past, which is why we try to go to the automated testing. And I'm just afraid that we won't see a lot of testing on preliminary to uncover problems before it goes live in Istio. And I'm just worried that we'll see a lot of problems at that point. I don't know that we will. I only have a couple of minor complaints right now, but I just wanted to sort of understand what the timelines were, and if we had people that were going to do any testing.
Yeah.
What class of problems are you worried about?
I'm more worried just about some of the content that's not there yet. I'm assuming it's coming in a PR, but maybe not. I know the buttons on the news thing behave somewhat weird.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about the highlight. If you look at my comment I added today, you can.
Yeah, I understand your comment. So there is it works differently than it used to, which we can debate whether or not we want that, and that's in part because we didn't factor in news until late enough in the game, so that's on us.
I have a question. If we merge it, can we unmerge it later, or is it once it's merged, it's everything's going to be layered on top of it? It's going to be near impossible to back out. I guess it's the latter.
I think it's probably the latter, but it wouldn't be me doing it. So
if we merge this will commit us, and we don't have a lot of people lined up for it. What is the benefit of merging? Like, I haven't seen the proposal. I don't know how valuable the new layout is.
Let me put a link in the notes so you can click it.
That'd be great.
Louis already put one.
He's done. All right.
Yeah, well,
feel free to.
No, I need it in the notes. I'm presenting,
I'll put it for you. I didn't get that.
Yeah, there it is. Look where it says new Istio.io format above there. That should be linked when your screen wakes up.
Yeah, there it is.
So here's my thoughts. Can we have both of the sites coexist?
This is
what
pretty
we
cool.
do with control plane. We can always go back to the old sites when I need some information, maybe not on the new sites. So at least I have a button to toggle back to the old sites.
They got the order right. This is pretty cool. Sorry. Yeah, what do you guys?
Boxes that said blank stuff when I looked this morning, so things are changing.
Yes.
Well,
so this is just the way the vendors work.
Yeah, the icons will still blank out for me too. So for the vendors.
This is pretty cool. It does look like they did a nice job.
So for
Josh,
anyone who's not familiar, the point of this is mostly the front content, so the advocacy stuff, the about the project and so on. There are CSS changes to the docs to make them look like the rest of the site. Obviously, that I'm sure is the area that's most important to this group. And also some of the content which is on the current site, which we deemed irrelevant for the primary audience. So information on how to contribute to the docs, for example, which is currently on the website. We're going to move that to GitHub because the average potential I might use Istio at my company person doesn't need to see that in the general about menu. So there are a bunch of that kind of stuff where things will be moved around, and a lot of that work has not been done yet. but we can make sure that it's still visible, and that will happen quite quickly.
Rob mentioned.
Rob,
that
you are not the
for
first
red.
person to think that. If you mouse over them, they come into color, and we can discuss whether your brand people approve of that.
Yeah, that is an old mark. The new is just a hat.
Is that?
Really?
Ah, right. Okay.
The other issue here is that. Well, that's fun. The other issue. Sorry. Okay, so the other issue here is that the logos change, the colors change on the logos, which I know is against Red Hat's branding, and I think it's against Google's branding as well.
There is a monochrome mode for both of them, and so I would like to think that that qualifies. If the colors are wrong in general, then we should look at that. But...
Red Hat's rules explicitly say that if you can display color, you need to display the logo in the original colors.
Can we discuss this somewhere else?
Yes.
I don't know.
Can I
start
this conversation?
But we're highlighting something. We're highlighting that there are a bunch of issues, and I don't know if we have the staffing to fix them. Okay, Brian, maybe you can mute yourself. I think, yeah.
Hey, Josh, can I make a quick proposal here so that we can keep making progress?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think, in my opinion, Josh, if you are still trying to figure out the value of the new layout, I think it was approved by steering. So I think you can come to us. That way, at least, you will be convinced from the value prop whether that makes sense or not. For anyone else who is technically worried about how things will look, in my opinion, a reasonable way to approach it is keep commenting on the PR like you all have made. And if you have reasonable doubt that this is heading the wrong direction, bring it up in the next TOC. From here on to the next TOC, I think you and Craig can work together.
But you're missing the staffing thing. So I agree that there's value, but we also think that there are going to be issues. Who's going to fix those issues? I don't think we've settled.
So let me suggest that the committing a new Red Hat logo and having a policy change on displaying them in color rather than having them go monochrome is probably something that the brain trust in this group can solve before 110. If we're talking about that level of stuff, then I'm completely confident that we will go live with having solved everyone's issues. The vendor is wrapping up today, and so they're going to merge their PR, or if you say we won't accept that, then they won't. But if they do merge it, then what I would like to see is that the commentary on the new site starts being issues on the site rather than comments on a PR, and that will make it a lot easier to track them, because right now each PR has a different preview, and that makes it very hard for us. Like, there are comments that were on one because things were fixed in another, just the way they've been working.
Is there still any bandwidth we can expect from the UX working group? The docs working group,
I was going to say, there is no docs working group, as we know it. There's some. There was a proposal to have a I forget what they're called, but in terms of an actual doc working group, I mean, there is still some people that are doing some of the infrastructure, like handling tests, like I've been doing that. But in terms of a lot of the content, I would have brought this up there had there been a doc working group, but.
So is the doc working group some? Is anyone
the one thing I'm really worried about was when we're going live. I figure we'll figure out the other issues at some point.
So is there a doc working group that's still meeting, or is it just completely defunct?
It's usually David and I and maybe Brian that meet when it's on the calendar.
Right, just to be clear that the charter of the docs working group is no longer to generate content, right? Like it's much more narrow now, like Eric described it, right? David helps with the website admin, Brian and others are chipping in, right? Eric is helping like with reviews, but there's a pool of content reviewers who are supposed to be brought in. right?
Has that happened?
It's mostly
so.
me.
And we have been pushing back on the other work groups to verify their content, and they've been doing that. So,
Right, and that transition was made a while back.
So is this an ask that we bring up to the working group leads in the next working group lead meeting to basically say, are you willing to, we can merge this site update and working groups will fix their any missing content, and then the overall working group will the docs working group will fix minor CSS and other site issues. Is that the proposal? Like, do we just ask them to do that, and then if they agree, then we go forward?
Well, so I don't think we're trying to be that detailed, because nor was there anybody in the docs working group who we would consider a website designer, right? And so we were very much crowdsourcing that, and have been since the very beginning of the project, frankly, right?
But things like the logos being wrong and
like
their color coming in on hover, like that's something that somebody like I could probably fix given time.
Right. So
yeah, I'm probably going to end up fixing that.
Yeah, that's what I mean by crowdsourcing it, Josh. Right? I mean.
Okay, but we have a decision here. Like if we crowdsource, we have ambiguous ownership. We may actually have a broken site. I would feel more comfortable if we had this remnant of the docs working group saying that at least they have the bandwidth for fixing some of these CSS issues and other format issues.
So I think that's a change in the process. So like on the old site, we were crowdsourcing, right? So I don't want to give the impression, right? The only material difference now is we have a revision that we choose to commit to or not, because we think it has incremental value, and then we go back to the old process of a collective fixing stuff that's broken as it gets found.
I think we dismissed or we overlooked Lynn's suggestion here. Is that still not viable?
Lynn, what's your suggestion?
I think.
Well, I was just thinking loud. I mean, when we merge a PR in Istio, right, the way we look at it is, does it cause any regression problem? And we always check that. And then we merge it. I was thinking for Istio.io, should we also look at, does it have any missing contents? At least the last thing I want to see is missing contents from our existing documentation. Because I know in the early release of Istio, when we removed like deep dive to mutual TRS, our user was super upset when the contents were gone, because I think those are super important to many of our users. So all these made me think, can we have them on the site so that maybe the new site, I mean, Craig, you have done amazing work. Maybe that can be default, but if people see the missing contents, they have a way to toggle back to the old Istio.io and they can find their contents there. I mean, we kind of propose our user to do that for the control plane anyway. Is that an option?
What would it look like to have to maintain both sites?
So let me talk to all of that. There's no easy technical way to maintain a toggle between the two versions of the look and feel if you want. Like, engineering that now will take more effort than finishing the work. None of the content that's currently on there, especially in terms of, say, markdown files, has been removed. So while there are a few things which are currently not exposed in the new UI, the content still exists. And in the case of anything that doesn't get exposed in the new UI, it still exists in the archive. So like the 1.9 site still will exist, and it will show you the pages for contributing to the docs, which we are intending to move to GitHub, but there is still a place to publicize them, and we could, if worst case, again, probably just set those to be redirects for a period if necessary. I agree that in a perfect world, A, the vendor would still be engaged, and B, the PR wouldn't merge until it was fully complete. The thinking, I believe, with our open source office who have contracted the vendor is that today it's on them to make sure that the PR will merge cleanly. If we say, right, they just stop work on it now and their branch continues to be maintained by us while we fix out the rest of the stuff, it's now a maintenance problem on the crowdsourced group here to make sure that merges later on. And I don't want to comment on the difficulty.
I think if we don't merge it, it's just going to rot away and we're going to lose it.
And to be honest, that has happened once before, I believe, with a big redesign project that this site tried.
I would like to know what the TOC, like from each person on the TOC, what their position is, whether we should merge it and crowdsource or not. Just like a quick like barometer check. Where are you guys?
So my take on this is we need to merge it, and we shouldn't try to maintain two things. We need to find somebody who can own this and say, yes, I am the throat to choke to make sure that we get this fully done, and they will be responsible for crowdsourcing, help, but from the pool of us that are willing to help. But someone needs to be taking the point and saying, okay, here's keeping track of all the different issues, right? So the 20 open issues, get them all fixed, make sure the content matches.
Sven, you mind if I'm going to jump into that with you. Sorry, go ahead.
And I would take Craig's advice to say, if there's issues, if you find issues with the new website, create an issue for it.
Okay, and then let's hear from the rest of the TOC. Where are you guys?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean,
this one.
Yeah, I think we need to commit, right? I think that's pretty clear, right? And maintaining this is expensive.
But I think the key part of this, Louis, is Sven, am I interpreting correctly that we should not merge the PR until we have this owner identified, or is that just me?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
As long as we think we can find someone, but if someone on this call says yes, I'm going.
I mean, that's the easy case. All right, so then I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think it's kind of whether it's an optimistic merge or a pessimistic. I would like it to be pessimistic. I would like us to find that owner first before we merge.
So for the avoidance of doubt, I am willing to be the owner of the process of getting it done with someone like Shredder to help with the tracking of things where necessary, but I have pessimism about the crowdsourcing.
Right, the issue there, we were already in crowdsourcing mode, right? So like I want to be clear with everybody, like previously with the site, if there was an issue, somebody filed an issue and it may or may not have gotten fixed, depending on who felt like they had bandwidth and enough itch to scratch.
So I think
right,
we didn't do a good job.
Pardon?
We didn't do a good job of having someone actually assign things to people, right?
Yeah, we would assign the issues to people, but we didn't there was nothing forcing them to fix them.
I'm less worried about that part. I think we can be better here.
I just don't want to invent a new process arbitrarily right now.
Niraj and Lynn, I'd like to know where you stand on this.
So from my point of view, I am having difficulty understanding the level of brokenness here, just being honest. It looks like Craig is saying there might be a few incomplete pages, but all the content is there. But I'm guessing that's not verified. All the content that was in the old site is there. If that's the case, somebody has to do the due diligence to figure that piece out, because that's a regression for our users.
In
to the question,
way? Yeah. Oh, sorry, there is. You're correct. Like there is some content that we are deliberately deprecating out of the site as part of this plan, and that will move and be available somewhere else, and also probably be redirected. But the may well be. Well,
wait, who's doing?
I will lead the process of moving it, but in terms of like who can do the logistical stuff to redirect it, that still needs a tech person with web and Hugo experience.
So if we don't have a volunteer for that, if that drops, we lose content, and that content might effectively be losing features if we have no other documentation of that feature.
So again, for the avoidance of doubt, the /docs hierarchy, which I think is what most people care about, remains as it is and was. So there is a small amount of content, for example, that's in /about. The feature status page is one piece. How to contribute to the website. Some of these things we need to re-add, and some of them we are deliberately thinking about moving off the site and putting on, like the GitHub wiki for the Istio.io repository should have the how to contribute documentation, not on the site. Mandar's question, vulnerability info is still there, I believe. Feature status, definitely yes, that's a hard requirement. Mandar's question, old versions get archived and the 1.9 site will look like it does today, and there are links at the bottom of the new one to access previous versions. Like there is still, realistically, there are still another couple of weeks worth of vendor work to fix a lot of these little things. Would have been lovely if we can get access to either a vendor, like you could quite legitimately go back to Google OSPO and say, merging today will be conditional on you finding and contracting a freelancer who can help solve the stuff between the now and the end of the project. And Doug, is there a list of that content? Not really, but I will make that as part of the process.
Yeah, I think knowing what's being removed is going to be very critical for us to make the decision, right? Because each of us have saying to say this content is really important, that content is really important. To me, I'm totally happy with the new site, but the first criteria is I don't want important content to be gone. Or we usually have to go to like 1.9 to look at the contents. And also the other comment I would make is for some of the pages that's still working in progress, or it might be better not have them in the manual, just hide them in the manual, because when you go there, if there's not enough content or if the content is not, filled out, I'd rather not have them in the manual. So
yeah, that's easy. That's an easy workaround. Another semi-easy workaround is obviously things like the feature status page. It is my opinion that should be under a hierarchy of the /docs rather than the /about, and that's why that doesn't exist in the nice user-facing design that you see today. But no one has done that work yet.
Okay.
What are the next steps? So I think one next step is somebody needs to share with the TOC a list of content that is going away or needs to be moved. Craig, any idea how we can find that out?
I can probably get you that, but probably not before our artificial deadline for merging this PR.
Well, we can always take over the PR. Anyone can take over that PR. We're good, I think.
Oh, can they?
What? You can always clone it or whatever, and then just create your own PR. As long as they don't delete their branch. And if we clone their repo, then we're good anyways. We got it locally.
I reckon that David and I could probably have a 10-minute chat and solve much of this. Like, I think that there is, at least in the short term, like, even though it's not the right answer, we can take the content which is going out of the about hierarchy, move it to docs, ensure there's a redirect, and then it's visible. It's where it used to be URL-wise, and we'll figure out the moving it properly later on.
But you're redirecting to the old site?
No, we're redirecting. I'm talking about pages that used to be /about/feature status and making them /docs/feature status.
Okay.
Which is simply because the new menu for about doesn't want to have 100,000 irrelevant things for new users.
Okay, that's okay, but So I think the thing that we're a lot of people are expressing concerns about, just we're losing some content here. So how do we get at that one? Or are you saying that that's not the case?
No. So A, the markdown files still exist.
Okay.
B, you might just not be able to find them in the menu where you used to. And so that's true of every release anyway.
Okay, so we're not going to lose content. It might be a UX issue.
Yes, sir. I'm just joined in here. I can definitely have a conversation with Craig to make sure we're not losing everything and throw in any redirects that need to happen to ensure that any old content will still appear at the same links, so none of the links to the about pages break, and it'll all get redirected to the new site.
But I guess the thing, I guess like the perspective, I'm not sure if we're considering. I think we're considering the perspective of the user on the site, but there's also the perspective of the developers who have to update documentation. And if they can't find the documentation that they used to update, it's in a different location. It's in, some of this documentation is in, just hard to find. Will that documentation become increasingly out of date too?
Only thing I'm talking about in terms of moving documentation is the kind of stuff that happens today already, which is sometimes the markdown file gets reparented somewhere else.
Okay. All right, so how do we close on this?
I think I'll be happy to merge a version of this PR if someone tells me they have looked and all the content which is intentionally not removed is there. I can live with small CSS bugs, layout bugs that can be incrementally added.
Yeah, I can definitely work on that PR as well. All of the code is already in our Istio.io repository, Istio/Istio.io, just on a separate branch. So it's not like we're going to lose anything as well if they remove their private repo or anything like that. So we should be good, and I can handle merging that PR if need be, and handling small bugs as well.
So Neeraj, more specifically, if somebody gives you a list of what content reorganization has occurred or some kind of summary of it, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So again, just to reiterate, I've just posted in the chat, everything that was there is still there, just some of it has lost its menu.
Okay. Well, I guess that's still lost to the external user, right? Unless they love memorizing URIs. So I guess, Craig, the answer there is if we could have a short email summary sent to the TOC, and if people have time. So in addition to that, right? Because I think we're saying this has to be a call by the TOC, right? In the meantime, if people take a look at the preview and they see something that they are concerned about, then they ping the TOC on Slack? Or where would be the best Slack forum to capture?
Docs.
Probably the docs.
I don't. Is TOC public on Slack? I'm not sure if.
It's not. So how about we do it on docs and mention the TOC?
Yeah, let's just do it on docs. And it sounds like we don't have to commit the PR today. That's what David is saying. So we can let that play out a little bit, but we don't want to wait too long, right? Because
right. It'll just bit right away. Yep.
Right. So I think we would like to have made a decision to be able to commit within a week. Is that what we're saying? Just so we don't, because we'll create a backlog of other merging issues if we wait longer and longer, right?
Yeah, so David, before you joined, I mentioned that the onus of keeping the PR mergeable is on Polydea until right now, basically, which is 7 o'clock in Poland. And any longer than that becomes someone else's problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can definitely merge it and stuff. Hopefully they can do a quick rebase here before at the end. That way we don't have to deal with the merge conflicts. But yeah, I can definitely handle it. I have some bandwidth.
Thank you. All right. Okay. I'll add an item to the next TOC to discuss. We can discuss in 1 week. We'll do some offline work between then. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. Boy, Louis, I thought that was going to be a quick one.
Yeah, so did I.
What would have happened if I hadn't seen this and joined?
We would have summoned you again, Craig. Hey, thanks, Eric, for bringing it up. I think this was a good discussion, and it might have slipped through if you hadn't brought it up.
Thank you. Okay, Shweta, are you here now? We can delay this. I'm going to bump this now that I have this section for the next meeting. I can put this there. We'll discuss in 1 week. And then the question is, what do we do with our remaining 11 minutes? Environments yearly roadmap, or okay, yeah, actually that's the last thing. Is there a TOC next week? Is there one? What's the issue, Doug?
We have assumed our day next Friday.
It's a global day off, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. This is a thing, by the way, that, you know, during the age of COVID, you know, all Googlers periodically, like maybe every other month, something like that, maybe every 3 months, or, you know, we're getting this day off, extra days off, and they're always on Fridays. So it is leading us to not participate in some TOC meetings because we also want to take advantage of these days off. What should we do about that?
Yeah, we've been trying not to have them because we don't want to.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think either cancel it or try to move it would be my suggestion.
Yeah. I mean, the bind that we're in as Googlers on the TOC is we don't want to just show up and say, hey, we're Google, and we have this internal thing, let's move the TOC to accommodate Google, but we also don't want to put pressure on other Googlers to attend this meeting on days off by attending it ourselves. We're kind of in a bind.
How frequently is this, you said, Josh?
Is it like every other month? Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it seems like it.
No, it's not quite that.
No meeting Friday.
Not quite that.
There's about 4 per year, I think, is the plan.
Okay, one in 12 meetings.
Yeah, maybe just skip it.
Okay.
And
okay,
we set up a meeting in the another day of the week if we really need it.
I'm good with that. I mean, it's mostly Lynn and I who show up now. I mean, so we are short of members anyways.
Yeah, we don't have quorum, so there's no point to meet. Oh, I need a day off to meet.
We can only give you an hour off. Sorry.
That's generous.
You just broke it. Somebody will take it in my calendar now.
Oh, yeah, don't delete the meeting.
Just
leave the meeting.
Yeah, that's right. You can always create
there's
fake
no
ones for
agenda.
yourself. But when you create fake ones, they should be like low granularity. You know, don't just do like a day-long fake one. People don't believe those. Okay. Environments yearly roadmap. Costin, is that you? Are you the last lead standing for environments?
I'm the last, but I think we did it last time. We did the roadmap for environments.
Okay.
Yeah, we did it early. Yeah, we did it last time.
Well, we still had Martin.
All right. Do we want to discuss anything else here, or should we take 8 minutes back? Do we want to? I think there was one thing left. We had the product security yearly roadmap. My gosh, we have one of those. I hope it's not leaking any vulnerability information. Like we will fix these. No.
By the way,
we did that too.
Maybe we can also discuss environment. I'm kind of lonely.
I think that's the sweat agenda item.
That's what we skipped.
Okay.
We skipped working
I
group.
mean,
Right.
we could have a non-binding chat about it in 7 minutes. What do you guys want to do?
Or we could go. I would be happy to go 7 minutes early.
Yeah, let's do that.
Wait. I think it's important for us to use the 7 minutes to at least introduce that topic and get people thinking, so that when we skip the next meeting, like there will be some, like we want the whole community to think about this. So I think it's probably a good use of those 7 minutes.
I hate you, but you're totally right. Taking my 7 minutes back.
All right. Who wants to start with the proposal? I know Nate had. Okay, Nate, are you here? Nathan Mittler. I think. All right, let me proxy for Nate, and then somebody else can do it. I think Nate's concern was that multi-cluster needs to be something that everyone on networking deeply embraces. Everything in networking should be done from a multi-cluster perspective. Right now, it's in environments. Multi-cluster at a minimum should move over to networking. Then the question is there enough left in environments?
And also, my concern is that most people who go to environments also go to networking. So it's most people who do work environments also do work networking. It's a bit of almost it's overlap completely.
Okay. So there's so what conversations happen in environments that mostly don't happen in networking, aside from the people overlap?
We don't have very much to discuss anymore lately. I mean, it's most things have been stable regarding installer, and we're not planning any major changes. You saw in the work in the roadmap.
So what about VMs?
VMs are almost beta, or not already beta, and I don't think we are planning any major change in VM.
Multi-tenancy?
Multi-tenancy, it's 90% networking. I mean, all the changes will be related with how we're doing, authentication and I don't know. It's nothing specific really about. I mean, we still find something to talk about to kill the time, but I don't feel that we have any substantial plan. And that I think it's a good thing that we are not planning to make any major change to how we install, how we operate, and what environments we support.
So can we get confirmation from other people? So I think we need to consider all the tracks, all the responsibilities of environments today, and make sure that it's appropriate to move them to networking. And I think Costin is saying that for VMs and multi-tenancy, we could move them because there's not much work remaining. Does that sound right?
So there is work remaining, but it's mostly around security and Istio deep changes and fixes. I mean, I don't think there is any major change we're going to make. Maybe we should call networking group Istio D working group, because that's kind of what we keep making changes.
So other folks who show up to the environments meeting?
Anyone from the operator, any operator owners,
yeah,
or like anything like that?
Now I can think about like Helm work mostly ending up being a pure environments working group rather than a networking, but a merge doesn't necessarily hurt.
Right.
Doesn't improve either.
Working group that can house that, right?
Say that again, Mitch.
The upgrade working group.
Which seems like a logical place to own Helm.
Right. So we could we don't have to move everything to one place, right? We could say like we slightly recharter the upgrade working group to be upgrade and install, right?
Although I was thinking the upgrade working group was supposed to be a short-term thing and get absorbed back. Sounds like this would be making it a longer term.
Yeah, I mean, so what we'd really be doing is we'd be moving a bunch of responsibilities from environments to networking, and then merging upgrade working group into this residual environments. Could work.
Right. So 3 into 2.
Yeah.
So can I ask?
Multi-cluster has components for both install, upgrade, and for networking. So there seems to be a lot of stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
I would love to see that some people staying and working on all that stuff needed to set up the different kinds of multi-tenant, multi-cluster, multi-mesh stuff.
Well, we haven't talked about who, right? Like we haven't said like who's going to be leads in which of the, like if we do the 302 model, like you're right, Ed. I like it. There are clearly like install concerns for multi-star, and people should care about them, and there should be appropriate leads for those topics. But is that, as a thematic division of labor, is that split a more accurate, more reasonable representation? That's the goal, right? I mean, the goal of working groups is to kind of organize around teams that need attention, to make sure that the right people are there. And maybe what we're seeing is that the locus of attention in environments has just drifted away into other things, and we need to think about recomposing the themes.
So when people in other work groups open an issue, they tag it as environments if it's related to several different things. The various Helm stuff, the various install command line stuff. Multi-cluster is confusing because it's not quite sure if the install of the multi-cluster failed or if it's not doing the right thing once it's been installed. So I want there to be enough granularity that I can just, like, when opening an issue, know which group to tag it up for.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, that's different though than, so that is slightly different, right? Like the tagging, that's actually an external concern. When someone, you're talking about when someone else from outside opens an issue, they should be directed correctly. I don't think those two have to be linked.
Can we at least organize, install, upgrade whatever we merged environments plus upgrade, which was anyway kind of alternating every week. So consolidate everything related with Helm, installer, operator, whatever in this group, and everything that is networking level into networking, like the part of multi-cluster that relates to networking.
Costin, my attention wandered. I'm so sorry. Is your proposal captured here, moving multi-cluster from environments to networking, or are we proposing something beyond that?
Yeah, to split it in half, basically. Move the part of the cluster that is related with gateways and networking to networking where it belongs, and keep the installer related into a combined environment plus upgrade working group. I agree now that install issues should have someone to, some more than one person to pay attention to them.
Okay. I think I'm fine with this too. What do you guys think?
And it sounds like VMs is pretty stable, so right. So really, what we're saying is there are features now. These features span these areas like other features do, and so right, we can have feature labels and we can have working group labels, and there's probably like a feature mostly gets discussed in this working group, and so we're saying multi-cluster will mostly be discussed in networking. VMs, I don't know, probably maybe it's mostly discussed in install. Maybe not. I don't know.
Nowadays, it's mostly security.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine by me.
I mean, I know a lot of the people who are working on the VM stuff are really in the security working group, so that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. How about I clean this up into a, kind of, basically this is, it's like I'm taking a like a logging file system, append thing. I need to kind of compact this into a proposal, and I'll put on the agenda for next week to discuss with Shweta when she brings this back up. Sound good?
Right. So this is one working group cluster discussion. I think there were others.
Yeah, there were others, but this is the biggie, and it would be nice to close on this one and then leave the other ones open for more discussion.
Sure, that sounds reasonable.
All right.